The air in the gallery was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and the low, pretentious hum of conversation. I hate these things. Polished concrete floors, stark white walls, and art that looked like a toddler's tantrum frozen in acrylic. But my boss, Mr. Henderson, had practically begged me to go. "Just show your face, Alex," he'd said. "The developers for the new waterfront project will be there. A little schmoozing goes a long way." So, there I was, nursing a glass of lukewarm champagne, trying to look like I understood the deeper meaning of a canvas painted entirely black. My wife, Sarah, was supposed to be about 100 miles north, finding her inner peace at a yoga retreat. "No cell service, honey," she'd said, kissing me goodbye that morning. "It's a total digital detox, just me, the girls, and downward-facing dog for 48 hours. I'd even packed her bag for her, tucking in her favorite lavender-scented sleep mask. I remember smiling, thinking how much she deserved the break. We'd been married for 7 years, and I thought we were happy. I thought the foundation of our life was solid, built on trust and shared dreams. I was a fool. I was making my way toward the exit, having successfully shaken hands with the right people, when a laugh cut through the drone of the crowd. It was a musical, uninhibited sound that I knew better than my own heartbeat. I froze, my hand halfway to my pocket. It couldn't be. I scanned the room, a sea of black ties and glittering dresses, and then I saw her. She was standing near a monstrous sculpture of twisted metal, bathed in the glow of a spotlight. It wasn't Sarah in yoga pants and a messy bun. It was Sarah in a slinky midnight blue dress that I had never seen before, a dress that clung to her curves in a way that was designed to be admired. Her hair wasn't pulled back, it was styled in soft waves that cascaded over her bare shoulders. She looked breathtaking, and she was not with her friends. She was with him, a man probably 20 years her senior, with a mane of silver hair and a tailored suit that probably cost more than my first car. His hand was resting possessively on the small of her back, his fingers splayed against the fabric of her dress. He leaned in, his lips brushing her ear, as he whispered something. Sarah's head fell back as she laughed again, that same vibrant sound. But this time, it felt like a shard of glass in my gut. This wasn't the laughter of a woman on a girl's weekend. This was the laughter of a woman deep in the thrall of an affair. My first instinct was primal. A hot surge of adrenaline shot through me, and my knuckles turned white around my champagne glass. I wanted to march across that polished floor. I wanted to shatter the quiet civility of this place, to see the shock on her face, to make the silver-haired predator take his hands off my wife. The words were already forming on my tongue, hot and acidic. But then, something else washed over me. A chilling, crystalline clarity. What would a scene accomplish? She would deny it. She would twist it. She'd call me controlling, paranoid. He would play the part of the distinguished gentleman, innocently caught in a madman's jealous rage. I would be the villain. They would win. Number. An outburst was an emotional release, but it wasn't a solution. It was a surrender. Justice, I realized in that heart-stopping moment, was not a dish best served hot. It was a dish best served ice cold. I watched them for a moment longer. He gently brushed a stray curl from her face, his touch lingering. She leaned into it, her eyes closing for a fraction of a second in pure contentment. The casual intimacy of the gesture told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't new. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a life she was living behind my back. My heart wasn't just broken. It was hollowed out, leaving a cold, empty cavern where my love for her used to be. But in that void, something new and hard began to form. A plan. A strategy. She had lied to my face, packed for a phantom trip, and stood here, laughing in another man's arms, thinking I was at home, missing her. She thought she was in control. She had no idea how wrong she was. Without making a sound, I backed away, melting into the shadows near the entrance. I I slid out the heavy glass doors and into the cool night air. The city noise was a welcome shock to my system, pulling me back from the brink. I didn't go home. I couldn't. Instead, I walked until I found a quiet, dimly lit bar. I sat in a booth, ordered a double scotch, and took a long, slow sip. The burn was grounding. I pulled out my phone, my fingers steady. The game had changed. She had set the board, but I was about to start playing by a new set of rules. And my first move was to find out everything. Sarah came home on Sunday evening, smelling faintly of lavender and lies. She swept into the house with a serene smile plastered on her face, dropping a canvas tote bag by the door. "Oh, honey, it was transformative," she sighed, wrapping her arms around my neck. I hugged her back, my body rigid, my mind a cold engine of calculation. I forced a smile, kissed her cheek, and felt the bitter taste of betrayal rise in my throat. I asked her about the yoga, about her friends, about the food. I listened, nodding in all the right places, as she wove a tapestry of fiction so detailed, so convincing, it would have been award-winning if it weren't destroying my life. She spoke of sunrise meditations and organic meals, of a girl named Chloe who had a breakthrough during a Warrior II pose. Every word was a hammer blow to the foundation of our marriage. That night, I waited until the sound of her deep, even breathing filled the room. The woman sleeping peacefully beside me was a stranger. I slipped out of bed and went to the hallway where she'd left her retreat bag. My heart hammered against my ribs, not with fear, but with a cold, determined purpose. I unzipped the tote. There was no muddy yoga mat, no scent of incense, no well-worn self-help book. Instead, my fingers brushed against a crisp paper receipt from a high-end boutique I knew she couldn't afford on her own, dated for Friday afternoon. The item description, midnight blue silk gown. Beneath it was a valet ticket for a restaurant in the city's most expensive district. And then I found it, tucked into a small side pocket, as if hidden in a hurry. A small, square foil packet. I didn't need to read the label to know what it was. It was a brand I never used. A premium, ultra-thin model that screamed of a bachelor's nightstand. The air in my lungs turned to ice. This was the smoking gun, the sordid, tangible proof of her deception. For a moment, the raw, primal anger I'd suppressed at the gallery threatened to boil over. I wanted to wake her up, to shove this vile piece of evidence in her face and watch her perfect serene mask crumble. But that was her game, not mine. Chaos was her weapon, precision would be mine. An idea dark and insidious bloomed in my mind. This wasn't just evidence to be collected, it was an opportunity. The next day, while she was at work, or wherever she really went, I drove to 3 different stores. At the first, a sporting goods store, I bought a small canister of the most potent pepper spray they sold, the kind designed for warding off bears. At the second, a pharmacy, I purchased a pack of fine-gauge hypodermic needles. At the third, a hobby shop, I bought a tiny vial of superglue. Back in my garage, I worked with the meticulousness of a surgeon. Wearing latex gloves, I carefully pierced the foil wrapper with the needle at a corner seam. I slowly injected the viscous, orange liquid, the concentrated capsaicin, into the lubricant inside the packet. It didn't take much. I sealed the microscopic hole with a nearly invisible speck of superglue. It was perfect. A tiny, ticking time bomb of searing pain, waiting for its intended user. I slipped the Trojan horse back into the side pocket of her purse, the one she always carried on her late nights at the office. Now, I just had to wait for the fallout from that, but it wasn't enough. I needed to know who he was. My investigation deepened. Our phone bills were online, a shared family plan. It took me less than an hour to isolate a number that appeared with sickening regularity. Dozens of calls and hundreds of texts, often late at night, all labeled under data usage to hide the contact. A quick search of the number online gave me a name and a face, Julian Croft, a high-powered real estate developer. And then the final, gut-wrenching piece clicked into place. Croft Development was the company behind the new waterfront project, the project my boss had sent me to the gallery to network for. She wasn't just cheating on me, she was sleeping with a man who held my career in his hands. The final piece of my puzzle was a small magnetic GPS tracker I ordered online. It arrived in 2 days. The next morning, as I kissed her goodbye, the taste of her lies like ash on my tongue, I palmed the device. While she was in the shower, I walked out to the driveway, knelt down and attached it to the undercarriage of her car. It was a simple, clinical act. For the next 2 weeks, I lived a double life. By day, I was the doting husband. I made her favorite meals, I asked about her work, I rubbed her feet while we watched movies. But by night, I was the ghost in her machine, the silent observer of her secret life. I watched on my laptop as her car's icon traveled not to her office, but to a luxury condo tower downtown. Julian Croft's address. I cross-referenced the dates with our shared cloud account, which she'd long forgotten was still active. I found photos, selfies of her and Julian on a balcony overlooking the ocean, dated from a week she'd supposedly spent at a work conference in Chicago. They were smiling, intimate, a happy couple. I compiled everything into a single, encrypted folder on a thumb drive. The phone logs, the GPS data mapping her deceit, the photos, the receipts, every lie she had ever told me, now documented with cold, hard facts. I was no longer just the victim in this story. I was the narrator, the director, and the final judge. And I had just set the stage for the final act. Her 35th birthday was in 1 week, a surprise party she thought I was planning. And oh, it was going to be a surprise, all right. One she and Julian would never forget. The night of Sarah's 35th birthday party was perfect. I had booked the private room at the Alistair, a swanky restaurant with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, skyline. The same skyline she had gazed at with Julian. I spared no expense. I invited everyone, her parents, who always called me the son they never had, our closest friends, who saw us as the perfect couple, and my boss, Mr. Henderson, along with a few key colleagues. And of course, the guest of honor, who was not Sarah. 2 days before, I had called Julian Croft from a burner phone. I pitched my voice a little higher, introducing myself as Mark from Sarah's book club. I told him we were throwing a surprise party for her, and that she had been dropping hints for weeks about how much she wanted him to be there to meet her world. He was hesitant at first, the caution of a seasoned adulterer evident in his tone, but his ego was his weakness. The idea that she wanted to show him off, to integrate him into her life, was too tempting. He agreed to come, promising to be discreet. When Sarah walked in, the room erupted with a chorus of surprise. Her hands flew to her mouth, her eyes glistening with what I knew were expertly crafted tears of joy. She looked radiant in a new dress, one I'm sure Julian had paid for. She kissed me deeply, whispering, "You are the most amazing husband in the world." I just smiled, a calm, placid smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Only the best for you, my love," I replied. For 2 hours, I played my part to perfection. I mingled, I laughed, I accepted compliments on what a thoughtful husband I was. I watched Julian arrive and give Sarah a subtle, knowing nod from across the room. I saw the flicker of triumph in her eyes. She thought she had it all: the devoted husband, the rich lover, the perfect life built on a foundation of lies. She had no idea that foundation was about to be reduced to rubble. After the main course, I tapped my glass for attention. If I could have everyone's attention, I said, my voice steady as I took the microphone. As you all know, we're here to celebrate my incredible wife, Sarah. For her gift this year, I wanted to do something special. I have put together a little slideshow of our memories. A screen descended from the ceiling. The lights dimmed. the room filled with a soft, romantic melody as the first pictures appeared. Sarah as a little girl, her graduation, our first date. Murmurs of awe rippled through the audience. I clicked to our wedding photos, our honeymoon in Italy. I even made a small speech, my voice thick with feigned emotion. 7 years, I said, looking right at her. 7 years of what I thought was trust, love, and honesty. She beamed at me, oblivious. Julian watched from his table, a smug little smile on his lips. Then I pressed the next button. The romantic music cut out abruptly, replaced by a dead, unnerving silence. The image on the screen was no longer a happy memory. It was a screenshot of her phone records. Julian's number highlighted in yellow, showing hundreds of calls and texts. A collective gasp went through the room. Before anyone could process it, the next slide appeared, a map of the city, with a red line tracking her car's daily trips from her office to Julian's downtown condo. Of course, a modern marriage is about communication, I said into the microphone, my voice now devoid of all warmth. Like the 68 calls Sarah made to this number in the last month alone, or the daily meetings she had at this address. Sarah's face had gone ashen. Her smile was frozen, a grotesque caricature of happiness. Julian was halfway out of his seat, his face a mask of panic. But pictures are worth 1,000 words, aren't they? The next slide was a high-resolution photo from their secret vacation, the one I'd found in the cloud. Her and Julian on that balcony, his arm around her, kissing her cheek. They looked so happy. This was taken during Sarah's work conference in Chicago last month. Funny, it looks a lot like the coast. I looked directly at my boss. Mr. Henderson, I do believe that's Julian Croft of Croft Development, the man you wanted me to build a relationship with. As it turns out, my wife was handling the client relations. The room was utterly silent, the tension so thick you could taste it. Sarah was shaking, her eyes darting between me and the screen, her whole world imploding in front of her friends and family. I saved the best for last. But don't worry, Sarah. I didn't forget your party favor. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the small, square foil packet. I found this in your bag after your yoga retreat. I was concerned it might not be safe enough, so I made a little addition. I let the words hang in the air. I injected it with concentrated oleoresin capsicum, bear spray to be precise. I hope your companion enjoys the surprise when he finally uses it. It should be a truly unforgettable experience. Julian Croft's face turned a shade of green I had never seen before. The realization of what he had narrowly avoided, or what might still be waiting for him, hit him like a physical blow. Sarah just stared at the packet in my hand, her mouth opening and closing with no sound coming out. I set the microphone down gently on the table. I looked at Sarah, at the ruin of the woman I once loved, and I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just a profound sense of release. Divorce papers were filed this morning, I said, my voice just loud enough for the room to hear. All of this, I gestured to the screen, has been sent to my lawyer, and to Julian's wife. I believe her name is Catherine. She seemed very interested to see it. I turned my back on the wreckage, on her weeping parents, on our stunned friends, on the smoldering remains of my marriage. I walked out of the restaurant and into the cool, clean night air. I didn't look back. Every step I took was a step away from the lies, the betrayal, and the person I used to be. The city lights spread out before me, no longer a backdrop to a life of deceit, but a landscape of infinite possibility. I was free, and for the first time in a very long time, I could finally breathe.